Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another video for Eve Echoes. In today's video we're going to be unpacking the two new announcements. It's literally 10 past 8 in the morning, I've read through these announcements and well, a video is absolutely vital at this point as well. This is not a topic I really wanted to be talking about, but it's important I feel that we tackle these head on and talk about what this all means going forward, because to me this is not good news at all. Like, this is genuinely one of the worst things I could have woken up to this morning, other than to find out that a far-right extremist has just won the premiership in Italy. Oh wait, that just happened too. Anyway, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the two announcements that were put out by NetEase overnight. I've got them both up on Discord here. Treat this pretty much as if it's like a podcast, because there's going to be no flashy graphics. I will be referring to the text that's on screen, but I'm not really going to be moving around beyond that, so things should be pretty straightforward for you just to basically listen to this one rather than having to keep your eyes on your phone or whatever device you watch me on. Now, ultimately, let it never be said that Captain Benzie has some kind of sway over the developers. That's something I've been accused of numerous times since the game first launched. And ultimately, if that were even remotely true, then we wouldn't be in the situation we're currently in. So, we're going to be talking about this, unpacking what this all means and how it comes together into what I think is a really bad situation for Eve Echoes. We're going to look at how this expands outwards, and we're going to look at basically how this all comes together. Now, first things first, this is of course all my opinions, but if you'll indulge some little bit of arrogance for the moment, I would like to point out that most of the time when I've had opinion pieces like this in the past, they do end up being fairly accurate. You remember how I sat there and said that capitals were being added too early, and people were like, nah mate, I want my super powerful ratting machine, it's not going to break the game, and suddenly everything's about capitals. All of the new content is battleship or capital related, how new players are dropping like flies, because how do you compete when everyone else is in battleships and capitals and they're doing all of the content that you can't do in your smaller ships? Yeah. That's how we're unpacking here. So let's just jump straight in on this one. Hit like if you haven't already. Please take that extra second to do it. It really helps. And if you want to keep supporting me doing content like this, head across to patreon.com/Captain Benzie and you can pledge your support there. Every dollar, every pledge both means the world to me and really helps keep this channel going, especially through the dark days like this. It's always nice to know that I have people's support on days when I genuinely just want to uninstall the game and move on with my life. So let's have a look at the first announcement, the Blue and White Galaxy. The brand new nanocore blue and white porcelain is coming soon. The new nanocore has its own special mode. Demonstrate hardcore technology and feel the charm of fine china style. Welcome to our new update, Blue and White Galaxy. We're waiting for you here on September 28th. So this launches tomorrow. And the picture for it is pretty cool, I'll admit. We've got here a Nidhogger, a Raven, there's a Cinnaball, there's a couple of other ships like a Maelstrom, an Apocalypse, a Geddon, a Stratios, and yeah, that's another Apocalypse there in the background there. Ultimately, it's a cool looking nanocore, I can't lie. This kind of blue and white with these Chinese style decals and that on the front. It's very pretty. However, it's... okay, now let's go for the good bits first. The good bits are that, okay, it's a capital nanocore. This is a good thing. Capitals don't have many nanocores, so getting a few more of these can only really be a good thing, right? It's nice to see that the Cinnaball is showcased here, which means it's not just going to be battle cruisers and capitals, but we are getting some cruiser nanocores as well, including the Stratios, which doubtless will be a combat core, but hey, ultimately, at least it's getting some love, which I'm all for it. It looks nice and it's covering a decent variety of ships, according to this picture, assuming we can trust the artwork that NetEase put out for their updates. And that's not always the case now, is it? Because let's be honest, they did a whole video along with some really cool shots of a Rifter doing Dormant Realms, and there is no way in hell you can take a Tech 2 Rifter into Dormant Realms, and they didn't add another Rifter, which was the other thing we thought, oh, well, maybe this is low-tier content that you can take a Rifter into, or maybe they're going to finally add the Rifter Assault that we've been crying out for going on 3 years now. Nope, none of that at all, just false advertising. So I'm hoping that this is going to be fairly accurate here. Anyway, so the bad stuff. We're talking about this having a mode. Now, on paper, that sounds really cool, and I would normally be all for this. I've said before, I think nanocores could be really interesting if they added new modes to ships. And so why am I not happy about this? Why am I not happy they're doing something that I asked for? Because the last nanocore to have a mode, the sleeper nanocore, was made basically purchase only. And I have no reason whatsoever to disbelieve that this nanocore is not also going to be purchase only. When they've talked about nanocores like this, previously it's been the Sleeper Nanocore, the Illusory Ghost, and the Neon Rain Core. When they've done big promotional artwork for it, it is a core that has to be paid for with real-world money or a ridiculous amount of plex rolling on a lucky wheel or some other crap like that. So that's how I reckon this is going to be. Normally, I'm the kind of person who says, like, look, let's not start complaining about it until it happens, but I'm now at the point where, you know what, it happens every time. It happens every time, so we have to just make that safe assumption that that's how it's going to happen this time. There's no information otherwise in the alert here. Now, what this mode could be, because it's called Blue Porcelain, and porcelain obviously is something that's very fragile, I kind of imagine that these are going to essentially be the Eve Echo's equivalent of, what's it called? The word's on the tip of my tongue. I thought about it before recording this and now it's just gone. It's a thing in EVE Online where you can basically modify your weaponry so it reduces all of your ship's defenses, but instead just gives you more damage output. Basically turns you into a glass cannon. And if it's going to be a porcelain style thing, well, making a tanky core and calling it porcelain just doesn't make sense. So I think this is going to be a core that when you activate it, it's going to do the opposite of the sleeper core. It will reduce your survivability in tank and will instead put out your damage even higher. Now that's a little bit of a worry, because some of the implants in that are already causing extreme DPS as it stands, notably for the Apocalypse, notably for the Macariel, and if we can see that you've got the Cinnabol, I have no reason to believe that the Macariel won't also get a core, at which point the Barrage nanocore and the Laser nanocores are just going to push these into frankly ridiculous numbers. This means that Echoes is really taking long strides now into that pay-to-win territory. I've argued that this game isn't pay-to-win for the longest time, until they added implants and charged $50 to $100 for them, and then added nanocores with special modes that are only available with real-world money. That's how I see this going, sadly, that this is going to be essentially another thing that you can pay big real-world money for in order to get a surprisingly major advantage. Oh yeah, but your glass cannon, right? Who cares when you're doing 6,000 DPS or whatever the Macariel can put out with the barrage implant, and just utterly wreck anything before you even take shots back. With an Apocalypse Striker using its siege mode, the amount of damage you can do at the range that you can do it is just going to be frightening. So I have very little good hopes for this. The only thing I can say is the artwork looks awesome, I love the look of the nanocore, and Blue Porcelain, it's an interesting idea. I'm glad to see that they are taking things like modes on nanocores and making that a thing. I would love to see nanocores that completely rejig how your ship works. Like, take the interdictor nanocores, have a nanocore for, say, the Thrasher, the Coercer, the Catalyst, and the Cormorant that actually stops them being able to fit interdiction sphere launchers, but increases their damage and their scan resolution and stuff like this to basically make them the Thrasher fleet issue. To me, that would be really cool, a way to actually change how a ship operates by fitting a specific nanocore to it. I don't know, maybe you disagree with me on that one, but hey, that's the Blue and White Porcelain, Blue and White Galaxy update coming soon. That's the lesser of our worries. And that in itself is quite a worrying statement. The fact that I can say that is worrying. Hey guys, it looks like EVE Echoes are adding even more pay to win, but that's not what you should be worried about right now. That's a really doomsaying statement. Like, that actually makes me shudder a little bit inside to even say. But no, the big one here is the September 29th update, which is on Thursday. Logistics, supply, and battlefield support are critical in the intense conflict of sovereignty. Thus, a military program called Support Strategy will be submitted to Concord. The program brings pilots jump freighters, force auxiliaries, logistics drones, advanced equipment and skills, as well as scanning devices to spot unknown nihilist space. We're waiting for you here on September 29th. Now, let's talk about the capitals side of this first, because there's a lot to unpack there. Now, this is some really cool artwork, and I can never remember what the Caldari Force Auxiliary is called, but that's it here on screen now. It's not the Wyvern. The Wyvern's their super carrier or something like that. I don't remember. I have very little interest in Force Auxiliaries because they are what is going to break the game right now. And once again, I want to preface this by saying I've put out content talking about Force Auxiliaries in the past, and the comment section there was a dumpster fire of people telling me, no, you're wrong, the stuff that you've explained in a very evidential way, talking about logic and how things would work, looking at prior evidence with EVE Online, is completely wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the lack of evidence I have and just the gut feeling I have says you're wrong. That's not a counter-evidence. And again, forgive me the arrogance of saying that I can sit there and look at something logically, I can look at a logical progression, I can look at how this happened in EVE Online, and then I can look at the state of EVE Echoes and just extrapolate from there. It's not difficult to actually look at the data and see where this goes, but people still insist on wanting, good hope and good wishes. That is not valid evidence against hardburn fact. So, what are Force Auxiliaries? Force Auxiliaries are, in a nutshell, capital logistics. Okay, now that we've got that down, why is this such a bad thing? Because right now, basically, as I keep mentioning recently, EVE Echoes is in a situation where the foundations are unbelievably rocky and unstable. They are wobbly. Anything that is lower tech is just pointless and useless. New players are bouncing off the game left, right, and centre because it's so hard to get into when everyone else is already flying capitals. When it comes into nullsec and things like this, we're already seeing that pretty much every single gate camp ever includes at least one dreadnought, often carriers. This happens just with one interdictor cruiser. So yay, if you fly cruisers, I guess you might be the lucky sod who's chosen to be the gate camp. That's literally your content these days. Anyway, ultimately, everything in nullsec right now is being shifted further and further and further towards capitals. If you are flying a carrier, you can already earn ridiculous amounts of ISK through things like fleet rally points and special fleet rally points. Heck, even doing the things like Tech 10 larges and that ridiculously quickly is super easy if you're in a carrier. The only thing stopping dreadnoughts from doing this, ultimately, is the lack of HAWs, high angular weaponry. Now, this is something that people in the community, including certain prestigious content creators, are already calling out for. Give us HAWs for our dreadnoughts. That would absolutely kill Echoes, because we don't have the application issues that we do with that EVE Online has, because we don't have the ship structure and the skill tree structure that EVE Online has. If everyone can jump in a dreadnought, and that dreadnought can have the same tracking, if not better, than certain large weaponry, why would you even fly a battleship anymore? Like, what is the point in a battleship if the dreadnought can be fit to do everything the battleship does, but better? That's the question, and that's what HAWs being added to the game would do. Fortunately, they're not talking about HAWs here, they're talking about Force Auxiliaries, those massive logistics vessels that essentially keep everything alive. That pushes nullsec warfare into entirely capital versus capital, because if your dreadnoughts and carriers can be kept alive almost indefinitely by Force Auxiliaries, compared to the battleships, etc., having to rely on battlecruiser tier guardians, then yeah, those dreadnoughts are going to suddenly be a lot more powerful. They are going to stay alive, the battleships are not, because the dreadnoughts can put out that kind of damage and just blap through everything. And then the carriers, which their big weakness is their fragility, ultimately, by having a Force Auxiliary behind a carrier, they don't die. Force Auxiliaries are ludicrously tanky, they don't die easily either. So, if you're bringing subcaps to a capital fight, then the carriers are just going to wreck those subcaps, the dreadnoughts are going to wreck the other capitals, and then the Force Auxiliaries just keep everything alive. Basically, the game is about to become nullsec warfare, caps versus caps. There's no two ways about that. You can tell me I'm wrong all you like. The logic follows through that, plus we saw it happen in EVE Online. it certainly tracks that CCP added all of these capital ships to EVE Online in about the 3rd year of the game's existence, then immediately started to roll it back. They reduced the cost of capitals whilst reducing their effectiveness. They made them more situational. They increased a lot of sub-capital ships' capabilities. They added entire new classes of sub-capitals to the game in order to help handle it. They added new content that capitals couldn't handle in order to make sure that people still could play the game the way they want. NetEase have never done any of that. It's a constant shift upwards, constantly moving upwards towards the next big thing. And the little saying that I've come up with recently, the thing I find myself typing a lot in Discord and on Reddit, etc., simply put, is the foundations are wobbly, they are just continuing to build the tower up regardless, and their idea of fixing content is when we complain about something, when we say this is broken and that's broken, this isn't working, what they do instead is add a new, exciting, shiny thing to the game and hope that that distracts us long enough. That new exciting shiny thing usually lasts for about a week before we're all bored of it and we realise that it's actually broken the game even further. I'm looking at you capitals, I'm looking at you implants, I'm looking at you now force auxiliaries. This is not a happy situation to be in, and I know there are going to be people out there who are like, oh, I'm so excited I get to fly a Force Auxiliary. Awesome, I'm glad that you're excited, but I'm sorry, your excitement and your preference should not come before the health of the game. Because, yay, you're going to be excited that you get to fly all of this. What's that mean when the game dies because there's nothing for anyone else to do? When basically we are all flying carriers, dreadnoughts, and force auxiliaries, and that's it. What is the point in any other ship in the game? All the new players bounce off because it's going to be years before they can fly a capital, and, well, yeah, the game dies. Yay, I'm glad you had fun flying your force auxiliary, genuinely. All kind of, mockery aside here, I am glad when people find something that they enjoy in the game, but at no point should the health of the game be secondary to what you as an individual fancy doing. I would love to sit there and say that exploration should be exclusive to Captain Benzie and that it should be ridiculously lucrative, but it would be a terrible thing to add to the game, right? Scale that back a few pegs and that's basically what we're saying here. Now let's move on. The next thing in the announcement here, well technically the first thing, is then jump freighters. Now jump freighters are something that a lot of people have talked about in the game for a while. They are essentially your freighters, your Archon, not your Archon, I can never remember the names of them, the big freighters that they did the freighter raids and that with, but they have a jump drive available, so you can open up a sinusoidal field and you can jump the freighter directly to it. Now this suddenly means that gate camps in and out of nullsec mean nothing. You can just have someone jump to Conora and be completely safe once they're in there, or jump to Enrail and then head through the gates and stuff like this. Jump freighters can move through highsec. Then you have the whole situation that, again, someone's put a gate camp halfway down the pipe into your systems. You just open up a sinusoidal field. Oh wait, you don't even need to open up a sinusoidal field because your home citadel has a sinusoidal field generator that someone can just activate and bring you right on home. Basically, jump freighters in EVE Online are a really cool thing that allows you to, make these big jumps into and out of nullsec because it's so dangerous in nullsec that there is still inherent risk. Jump freighters in EVE Echoes just allow you to skip what little risk there already is in nullsec and just literally jump right over it. Oh no, there's a gate camp. Well, wouldn't it be a shame if I didn't have to go into either of the systems connected to that gate? I could just jump across like 8 systems in one go. That's what jump freighters are. And ultimately that ties us even closer to Jita. It puts us heavily in this situation where we don't even really need to worry about buying local anymore because someone can just take a jump freighter and fill it up with a load of stuff completely safely that everyone has bought. Basically, I buy all the stuff I want, everyone buys all the stuff they want, they contract it to the jump freighter who then brings it all completely safely back into nullsec. You don't even need your nullsec markets anymore because people can just use the jump freighters. It's one of those things, I get that people want it, but the base game does not support this kind of content yet. We don't have the market situation that EVE Online has that allowed jump freighters to be added to the game without destroying it. We just don't have that. Next up, logistics drones. If you were worried that things were already dying too fast and that there was just way too much consumption in EVE Echoes, now we have logistics drones. This means that anyone who has a drone slot can suddenly start healing up other players. It means that your logistics vessels, like your, Hurricane logistics, are about to get even more powerful. Now, I know I said earlier that ultimately force auxiliaries are going to replace logistics anyway, because you just won't have a need for subcaps, so why am I worried about logistics drones? Basically, roams and things like that instead. This increases the possibility of healing in roams and thus reduces the amount of destruction going on because there's more time to escape and to bunny rabbit away if things go wrong. Also, remember how they were complaining that drones were the thing causing all those black screens? Well, by the way, if you decide you're going to have a fight that isn't just capitals versus capitals versus capitals, if you actually include subcaps, well, now there are going to be even more drones on the field. Yeah. So NetEase aren't just adding stuff now for the sake of it, they're actually going back on stuff they've said. They are U-turning and adding more drones to the game when they've said they don't want to add more drones because ultimately that's what's causing black screen issues. So yeah, there's that. Ultimately, I don't even know what to say on this. I can just see the comment section screaming at me and going, "You're wrong, Benzie, you're wrong. This is all going to be fine." And then in 2 weeks' time, "Oh my god, the game keeps black screening. Why is it black screening? Why does no one want me to bring my battleships and battle cruisers to call to arms anymore? Why does no one buy from me locally anymore?" This is why. This is why. Because Benzie can sit here and talk until he's blue in the face, till the cows come home, till insert other analogy, idiom here, and just no one wants to listen to this. The devs certainly don't want to listen to this. We then have advanced equipment and skills. Now, advanced equipment, your guess is as good as mine. I am dreading that the advanced equipment they're talking about there is going to be high angular weaponry for dreadnoughts. I'm terrified, genuinely terrified, that that is going to be HAWs, because if it is, that's battleships gone. You fly battleships at Tech 9 and Tech 10 until you've skilled into capitals, and then you just use capitals and never look back to anything sub-capital ever again if they add high angular weaponry. That is literally what that will do to EVE Echoes right now, because we don't have any form of wheel. There is no kind of rock paper scissors going on in EVE Echoes. It is just bigger is better. Therefore, if you can suddenly get the dreadnought to do what the battleship is doing, then it's just better, right? It is literally that simple. Skills here are probably just going to be your jump freighter skills and your force auxiliary skills and probably your logistics drones skills that will boost those up. Obviously, it's not going to be you need these skills to fit logistics drones, so pretty much anyone can if they want to and just heal themselves, because drones don't use capacitor, right? They can just heal themselves in combat, which makes our ships even more tanky. And before someone says, "Oh, hang on, but maybe they're going to make it so only certain ships can fit logistics drones," really, there's no talk of balance in here. Nothing at all. There's nothing that says that only certain ships can... there's nothing that suggests that will be the case. History doesn't show that that's the case either. This would just be something that they add to the game that every ship can use. So awesome, when I'm out in my Hurricane now, instead of having a drone that does almost no DPS, I can put a drone out there that's just going to keep healing me throughout the entire fight as well, to make me even more tanky and survivable and add even less destruction to the game. Those skills, as I said, will be the jump freighter, force auxiliary, and skills that increase the effectiveness of your logistics drones. I'm pretty certain here. For jump freighter skills, I don't know. I'm not even certain they'll add a new set of skills for jump freighters. They might, I would assume they would, but there's another part of me going, it's just the freighter skill. It's the freighter skill, but freighters that also get bonus off the jump engine skill. That would do it. You don't need to add a new skill for that. I would kind of like them to, because at least then there's a choice of, do I actually want to fly into these? But again, that then completely, if they add new skills and it doesn't twin off the standard freighter skills, then suddenly you're just going to see everyone's skill out of freighters into jump freighters, and now freighters add that long list of useless ships that nobody flies. Force Auxiliary will obviously have its own skills, there's no two ways about that, and if they're adding logistics drones, chances are they're going to add some skills that support those as well. Now, this last bit here does interest me to a modicum, as well as a scanning device to spot unknown nihilus space. I have no idea what this means. I would love for my non-disclosure agreement with NetEase to actually mean a damn. It's literally not worth the value of the paper that it's printed on at the moment. I signed an NDA that says, hey, I won't leak any information you guys give me. This entire announcement was dropped on me the exact same time as it was dropped on everyone else. I have no information about this beyond what I'm seeing here. I've reached out to the developers, and at this point in time, I've had no comeback on this. And I don't honestly expect to. I imagine it's going to be the usual situation of Benzie asking questions and the devs either saying not in the plan or just not responding. Because, yeah, they're committed to having a conversation with players and working together to build the universe together as of last week's developer Q&A, right? That's the commitment they see, that's the vision they have for the game, but they don't talk to anyone. They just kind of go, here you go, and then expect us to be happy with it. As well as a scanning device to spot unknown nihilist space. Notably, it doesn't say a scanning device that you fit to ships, so there's a part of me that's thinking this is going to be fitted to citadels and things like that, to spot unknown nihilist space. That unknown nihilist space, I'm calling it now. I have no information on this, but I'm calling it now. That nihilist space is going to be where you get the stuff for force auxiliaries. It's going to be simple as that, and maybe jump freighters and stuff like this. It's going to be basically the fleet rally point and the special fleet rally point, but in nihilist, so that you can't just stupidly easily cheese it. Which I guess is cool, but oh look, it's just yet more combat that's going to be geared towards capitals and battleships, and those of us who want to fly anything else are going to be left behind in the lurch, just going, hey, are we ever going to get content? And at this rate, it's beginning to look more and more no. And I know some people said, oh, but like after Dormant Realms, they said we're going to add more modes to Dormant Realms, including for smaller ships. We wanted to add smaller ship Dormant Realms, we just didn't have time to. So what you're telling me is you started to work on Dormant Realms and didn't have enough time to finish it. Then when we said this is what we want now, rather than just finish what we were asking for, you went and added force auxiliaries, jump freighters, logistic drones, and a new form of nihilist space, along with a new nanocore for everyone to buy. That is my exact point. That when we talk about the idea of the developer saying, oh, they're going to add it in future, it's worthless. It's worthless. When they say coming soon or will add in future, it just means some point down the line, maybe if the game doesn't die before we get there. And at the rate things are going, I don't know. It's now a race as to what gets added to fix the game before players lose interest and drop out of it, because it's the same old, same old. More capitals, more of the same stuff over and over and over again. It's new and it's shiny for all of 10 minutes to a week until you go, oh, yeah, this new nihilist space is the same as the old nihilist space, there's just different ship models in it and it gives different rewards. That's literally it. There's no new exciting gameplay, there's nothing to it. Oh, but I've got a force auxiliary now, that's awesome! Until it's just logistics in the same old wars that mean nothing because there's no scarcity, there's no difference from region to region, so the only reason to go to war is just for the sake of going to war. Now look, wars can be fun, but wouldn't it be nice if there was an actual reason to go to war, if you got something out of it? You know, some special resources, like in EVE Online, how you have different moons to fight over because they give different resources and things like that. Yeah, none of that. Here's jump freighters. They're just going to replace your normal freighters. You're going to sit there and be like, oh my god, I get jump freighters. And then that's going to be it. You're going to be bored of them within a week because there's still no real use for them other than just jumping into high-sec and coming back. So doing a round trip to high-sec once a week. Aren't you lucky? Thank you, NetEase, for supplying such bountiful content for us. Oh, and logistics drones. Yay. I don't know, maybe I've just woken up in a bad mood this morning, maybe this has put me in a bad mood this morning, but I'm kind of done now at 30 minutes of talking about utter bullcrap that NetEase are adding to the game. I'm gonna kind of call it here. This is really beginning to worry me now, guys. I love this game to pieces, I love the community, I want to love the game so much more than I currently can, but it's just the same old mistakes being rehashed and rolled out and used again, and then just when we sit there and go, this doesn't work, this is what we need all of this stuff here. NetEase go, what, more capitals? Yeah, here you go. No, we need, like, you know, more actual engaging content for players. We need smaller ship content. We need, what's that? You want jump freighter? No, NetEase, you're not listening. You just keep on adding stuff for the same small group of people who already have most of the game in their pocket. And the rest of us are just watching going, what? It's the game development equivalent of trickle-down economics, and I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'm gonna go and have, I don't know, probably a strong rum and coke or something at, 20 to 9 in the morning, because I feel like I need it after this. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.